Hey, good morning, Luka.
Hello.
Here, Jaime, representing Makeda Cultura, Drums Radio. We are going to interview Luka, living in South Africa right now. Good morning, Luka.
Good morning.
Yeah. Representing We Go Deep, the Bliss Beyond.
Yes, sir.
Right. We were actually talking a couple of days, knowing each other was very nice to know you apart from the music
Yeah.
and explore a little bit where your music coming from. So could you explain us a little bit about how you started, what motivated you to start producing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be. I would have to say that was probably when my first interaction with music was with watching my parents when I was still like a toddler, and like all the parents um from East Africa that were like working here in Bophuthatswana at the time would have like get-togethers. So I think my first experience of people dancing to music, having a good time, had an impact on me from that young already. Because you see these people and they're like taking care of you, they're serious, they're going to work, you're at home running around naked, because you don't want to get in the bath and you run away from like whoever's helping you to take a bath. But like these people, it's the first time you see them smiling, dancing, and happy.
Mm.
So what is this that makes my mom and dad like start moving around and everyone is happy and laughing? And that was my first experience of music and seeing records spin on a turntable. And yeah, man, I think that was really the first bite of music. Like, all the oldies, like the disco, a lot of 60s, a bit of 60s, a bit of 70s, a lot of 80s. Yeah, a lot of that music back then, the Michael Jacksons, obviously, there was a whole bunch. But even like random music, like Aha and the Police, and like you know Elton John, Nikita. There was all sorts of music that was big at that time.
Yeah, well, one thing I should be telling the people, because for me, you are so familiar now that I haven't told the people that you have two labels, and and these labels are up since almost 10 years, a little bit less.
Yeah, about 10. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, yeah, it is 10.
yeah,
Wow. Yes, it
yeah,
is
yeah.
10. Yeah,
It's
we
ten
go deep is
years.
10.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
go
yeah.
deep is 10. Yeah,
A couple of
and then
singles,
yeah.
remixes. So it's like presenting Luca, because now it's like we are talking with people, even if we don't see you. Hello,
Yeah,
everybody.
yes.
Thanks
But no,
for listening to us.
yes. No, man, I think the main thing is I was just trying to put myself in that period. So I didn't really get into I don't like announcing myself. I'm just here,
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
a
yeah,
normal
yeah.
I'm a normal guy,
I,
you
I,
know.
I will just a little bit. So Luca has produced a lot
Yeah.
of music. It is really, I don't know, for more than, I think, 30, 40, 50 singles, a couple of albums.
Yeah.
In the Please Beyond is, I just listened it just yesterday, like, for 2 days, like two albums, one with Sio, which is beautiful. He has worked with Jackie Queens, with Charles Webster, with Opolopo,
Yeah.
Jaswell,
Mm,
P60, but
yeah. 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 Yeah.
mainly his label is about his music and vision, which I which I really like. And we're gonna explore the beginnings of his music, as he was talking now, but also how he launched the label, which are his main influences.
Yeah,
And we
no, we
can
can get
go,
into that. We can
yeah,
get into that. We can get
we
into that.
can,
We went to the beginning and then like
yeah,
middle. Now we're going back to the beginning
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Yeah.
We can go back to the people that trying to force you to go to the bad. They look
Yeah.
very very nice and funny while dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think why I talked about that was because it was just interesting to see the tangible effect of sound on people.
Mm,
I don't think most people realize if you're sitting at home and someone is banging on wood and people are like working on a construction site, your the amount of sound you're getting at that time that's actually affecting your day and how you are perceiving your environment is a lot different from being out in a meadow with no noise at all.
yes.
So I just think I pay very close attention to the way sound affects people,
Mm,
and even myself. And and that was how I even approached music. I never approached music from a space of I'm trying to make this sound.
okay.
It would always go with what I'm feeling in the studio. And then based on what I'm feeling, I would go through my kits and my different sound packages and start to pick and choose what sort of I'm feeling. And the more I did that, I started building up a lot more concepts of songs. And then eventually it got to the point where you've got a situation where you've got like 20 songs, but each of them are taking you back to a different space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think even with the label, when I started the music and I started giving music, I started like pushing the music out to different label owners, like Sure I Can from Dark Energy, Andy Compton from Peng. This was way back. I mean, Sure I Can in 2011 was like a god. He was like a god of deep house music. And I think what I liked about what he said, he didn't shoot me down, but he didn't take the music either. But he said something to me like, "Your music is great. Like really, it's great. I would love to release it, but it's just too deep." And then a couple of other labels said the same thing to me. And then Andy Compton actually said, your music is too deep, but why don't you make a remix for me?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I made a remix for him, and it turned into like this jazzy, like funk sort of house tune. And he was blown away. I mean, I was blown away myself. I didn't even know where the song came from. But the beat, the instrumentation and everything, the way I put it out and layered it, that was the first time I actually started playing with harmonies with I sort of had two chord progressions playing over each other, but then it's sort of like an off alternate sequence. But it was as if the two chord sequences were talking to each other while this guy was singing. So it was like this thing that I started picking up, I was doing without necessarily being trained to do them musically.
Mm.
So I think that's what gave life to the label We Go Deep, because constantly being told your sound is too deep. And then I said, you know what? This is what I do. I go deep. So I might as well just
Yeah.
start a label of my own.
Not try to adapt, so be yourself. So
Yeah.
but you met, like, you connect with Andy Compton. For the people that don't
Yeah.
know, Andy is from the UK but has a deep
Yeah.
influence in South Africa. He created Peng, which
Huge influence. Yeah.
huge influence, is a huge back catalog, and Peng Africa, which features some of, especially South African artists. I have also
Yeah.
a lot of albums came up, and Andy is related to the Rurals, which is a 90s
Oh,
house. Yeah. So
Oh,
he was connecting with a person who was a kind of musical pillar of that time in South Africa, and give him this kind of feedback. But before that, you was already, of course, creating music, but haven't released in any kind of label, right? Because we are trying to
to get the progression.
yeah, a little bit the progression. So before Andy
Mhm.
Compton, what happened in your life? Like, you get this influence, like how the power of music. You realize the power of music as a
Mm,
very early
mm,
age, and the power of
mm.
sound, and that leads you in a way to start producing by your own, experimenting.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
influences was strong at that time?
yeah. I think it really started when I was in high school. I started buying different house albums, and I
House from
started
the start.
to,
House from
yeah,
the
house
start.
from the. That was when
Okay,
I started like buying music for myself to listen to, not
okay,
listening to what's on the TV, or because I found,
gotcha.
because there used to be this other radio station called Radio Pop in Bophuthatswana, where before it became part of South Africa, it was Bophuthatswana. And there was this period where there was this revival of like all these new generation of radio DJs who would come with music from all sorts of parts of the world, because some of them were from overseas coming back. There was a hip hop movement, a lot of the 90s conscious hip hop. But then there was a couple of guys who came and brought um, New York style house, all sorts of house. And then there was this one time at night, I snuck into the front of the house and I put on the radio because I couldn't sleep or whatever. And I
Mm,
think it was around 12 or 11. And I put on the radio, and there was a guy on the radio talking about like there's this music genre that like a lot of people don't realize is gonna be the biggest thing. And then he played Sweeter Love by Blue Six.
mm,
And I remember hearing it, and I couldn't believe that you're allowed to do this.
mm,
You're allowed to make music like this. The the progressions, the beat programming, that dum 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 dum. I was listening to the song and I'm thinking, this person is saying something without any words
mm,
yet, you know. And then when Aya's voice comes in, I was gone. I was gone. Her voice was like silk. I started to see colors in my mind, like velvet and purple, and like wow. And then I was like, no ways, this can't be music. This can't
mm.
be allowed, you know? And then he put on some other music. Then he put on like there was these other tracks that were huge at the time. I'm trying to think. There was Rhythm Centric, Come to Me. Larry Heard. There was another
Oh,
song by Larry Heard, Mr. Fingers. He was playing stuff, and I'm thinking like, where is this music from? Because I didn't know it. And then by the time I got to high school, this was probably primary school. By the time I got to high school, I actually went to a record store with my friends and I heard the music playing in the store. And then I remembered, oh, this is the song. These are the type of songs I used to hear on the radio when I was young. And then I started investigating and would always go like CD shopping and CD hopping. Sometimes the cassettes because cassettes were like popular at that time. But like from then I got to like university, and then I got introduced to like vinyl, because at the end of high school matric, I was already DJing with like CDs. So you must understand, we were taking one CD player and another CD player and mixing. Like the volume on this one going down and the volume on that one going up. And there were guys who could mix that on time, because it will
mm,
always be a thing of finding a CD which has a similar BPM to the one. of the
Wow.
one you're playing. So that sort of taught me. And there used to be these guys who used to have like these DJ battles in the dorms, and it was serious business. It wasn't like it was personal when you got in there because you wanted to show like you could do this. By the time I got to varsity and then I got to vinyl, because my one of my family friends, Art Jones, he was already like becoming established in the house scene as a
Mm.
piano player, a live instrumentation player, and a producer and a DJ. But like they owned a record store with Cisco called wow, I can't remember the name of it now. Yeah, I haven't thought about that place in a while. Eh,
But you
Jenny,
but you starting producing at that time, like DJing, collecting this
I
music.
wasn't even producing. The
Ah,
only thing I
okay,
was doing was DJing
okay,
because
okay.
producing. Remember, when I'm in varsity now, I'm now DJing. Now I'm actually playing, and I'm like becoming quite solid at this DJing thing. And I'm buying music that's not necessarily mainstream. I was buying vinyl from Sweden, vinyl from Russia, because there was a lot of underground producers back then making
Yeah.
like beautiful music.
Yes,
You'd get
yes,
like
yes.
a 4-track vinyl, but like all the different 4 tracks were not, they weren't remixes, they were actual full songs
Yeah, yeah,
of
like
different producers on one vinyl from one house. But
yeah,
like you'd end up playing these songs and like people wouldn't know them. So it would be like a thing of educating them because they were used
yeah,
to the come to like the come to me's by Moloko. Um they were used to like the Monique Binghams, the big names at that
yeah,
time, the Quentin Harrises, the Frank Rogers. Not that I didn't play those things. Yo, there was so much good music at that time. It's ridiculous. I'm
and
so glad I still have my vinyls. Yeah.
yeah, and at what time you started producing from work
Oh
perspective?
yeah.
That we go back to Andy Compton and start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that came after my accident. Um, I had an accident in varsity, which actually put me in a wheelchair, in a sports game, where my neck was affected in a rugby match. And then after that, I had to now come to terms with the fact that I had this injury sort of at the prime of my life. I was in the best shape of my life. I
Wow.
was DJing, I was playing, people were like, I was actually getting a name for being able to actually spin this wax. And then that accident just, I went from being able to do everything for myself to suddenly not being able to move a finger.
Wow.
And then I was in hospital for about 2 months. Then I had to go to rehab. And I was in rehab for about 18 months. So a good 2 years of my life after that, I was just trying to get some semblance of what life should be like. And at this time, music is not even in my mind. Um, I actually, after going back home, because initially I was told I wouldn't move again from the neck down. But then something just told me, which I now know, we can get into that later, which I now know was my ancestors. Um, I got into a situation where I almost, I was sensing things about myself that didn't make sense due to my situation. But for whatever reason, I just trusted the Almighty and I trusted like this sense of support I had with me spiritually. And I saw that with the family as well. We're not a huge family. We're just four people, but me, my sister, and my parents. But there was a coming together that I didn't think would be possible. But
Inside
I
you.
actually,
That,
yeah,
that,
like for the whole group, not just me,
okay.
because it was a thing of saying I'm in the situation, but we're in the situation as well.
Yeah. You
You know?
experience that you small family
Yeah.
going together and support
Mm.
your situation in a way that wasn't like this before, like this unity, so to say, right?
Definitely, definitely. And I think
Gotcha,
I think even and when I look back, it's a weird thing to say, but I don't want to say it had to happen, but I don't think I would be who I am now if I wasn't already this person before the accident.
yeah,
So the accident almost made who I am come out more.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
because who
yeah.
I am came out more, it actually brought the people around me together more as well. And it's made them be themselves more. It's a weird thing. It's
Yeah,
a
but it happens
weird
for it
thing.
happens. I have
Yeah.
observed this like this like life force you into the best option of yourself to a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
For some reason, it happens all the time to
Mm.
certain type of people or souls or whatever. So, and
Yeah.
at this moment, it was that like these 2 years, like this coming together to a real sense of self in you and the closest ones, and then you start producing music from that place,
Yeah.
right?
Because in that point, the reason I say I wasn't thinking about music is because I couldn't move
Yo,
anything. So as I started to listen to these voices of like these elders that I could hear that were with me, I started to, doctors would tell me you should just accept your situation. You probably won't move, so you'll need to just find a way to work with your situation as it is. But then I would hear this voice of this elder tell me there's no way you are not going to move again.
you see,
And then, slowly but surely, I'd feel a twitch in my arm, in my bicep of my one arm. And then my arm started to come back.
wow,
And you must understand, this was a complete.
wow,
When we talk about a complete spinal cut, it shouldn't be possible for me to move, but I'm moving. I want to make
yeah,
this very clear. Like, there are some things we just can't explain with science. It just
yeah,
won't be able to, because science can only grasp what it's able to see.
yeah. But that the spiritual energy goes through the spine.
Exactly. You
So if
understand?
it's an spiritual intervention in the spine gonna move.
Exactly.
I was not.
Exactly.
I
So,
didn't tell you this. I didn't know that from you. But I couldn't walk without pain for 2 years also,
yeah,
and I had to learn some things to for myself to recover my leg. So
yeah,
I
to move the energies and things. Yeah.
yeah, but I was like walking. I could walk and I could move because just was just knee. But for 2 years I couldn't walk without pain, and I wanted to become a dancer, not
Yeah.
in the music at that time. So I couldn't dance. So I had to revisit myself in a deep way and change my way for the person who I'm now.
Ah,
So not in the intensity you are living probably, but that was
yeah.
intense. It was very intense.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a dancer in you there, Jamie. Huh?
Yeah, I was in the music from the beginning, so it's not my interview, but we connect
Yeah.
a lot. So music was in the beginning, from the very beginning, but at a certain
Yeah.
moment in Germany, I met contemporary dance, and it was mind blowing for me. So and I wanted to go this way, but the leg broke. I was leaving from the music at that time,
Okay.
and I got
Yeah.
to come back to Spain and start getting more serious with the spiritual work. So I really follow you, and I think and the power that the power inside that a person can receive for such a situation,
Yeah.
it is something that I felt in your music from the start. So let's share with the people. I was talking with Pablo Martinez from FOMP, and he
Yeah.
told me, "Hey, listen, you don't know Luka? He's so deep and so good." And I say, "Hey, for real?" And I check you out. through an
Yeah.
advice of a friend. We were talking. Pablo is a label owner of FOMP. He
Yeah.
has a Spanish name, but he's an English man, producer,
Yeah.
DJ also, and he was the one that connect us. So we can go back
Yes, yes, yes.
to like I think the story of launching We Go Deep as a platform for being honest to what's
Yeah.
coming.
Y la conexión para tocar los tambores en un banda fue
Oh my
después,
God!
porque
Hello.
yo estaba siempre en candomblé, pero no podía tocar,
Let me.
podía tocar un poco, pero
What's happening
para
here?
el Logan,
Oh my God!
That
You
sounds,
listen
that
to the.
sounds like a that sounds like a lecture or political talk. Yeah.
No,
What
that was
what was he what was he talking about?
no. It was the previous interview. I have it
Oh,
open
okay.
in YouTube, and it get played by itself. I didn't touch anything,
Hey,
and
you
it
got
was
spirits running around there. You got
yeah.
spirits
It
running
was
around there, Jaime.
yeah. They touch. It is the previous interview I'm editing because we actually have some. We thought we can translate, but I have to translate it by
To
hand.
type. Okay.
But
No,
it
man, I
came.
think
Oh my
but
gosh!
no, man, but to take you back to Pablo, Pablo is actually too kind. But like the process of then starting to produce started with me using this. I don't know if you can see it. It's
Yeah,
a pencil strapped to my hand. So I
yeah.
basically put this on and I produce with Reason. So I had to learn how to do musical scales with I've got like a mini keyboard, and those came after because I didn't have anything. I didn't have any of those. I was using a rickety laptop with Reason 2.5, and that's actually the software I made my first remix with for Andy Compton on. He didn't know. I talked as if I knew what I was talking about. He just believed me. But I didn't actually know like musical scales or anything back then. So
Wow.
after I did the remix for him, he was like, dude, you actually quite a dope producer. Let's see how we can work some more. Now I was thinking, oh snap, now I actually need to get like a proper laptop and things. And then I sat outside one day, but there's like a big tree now in our yard. But at the time, the tree was struggling to grow. It was a sapling, and it was sort of bending to the side and wasn't growing. And then something just made me feel as if like this sapling could hear me. And I said, you know what? I see you struggling like I'm struggling, but if you can grow, I'll grow too. And I swear to you, from that day, that tree started growing. It started getting stronger. It started taking root. It started taking shape, and it started growing. And then I thought, okay, snap. Now I actually have to honor what I've said. Um, and that's when I said, you know what? I spoke to Source, and I said, I don't know where my life is going, but this music thing makes sense to me. If I'm meant to do it, help me make it happen. 2 weeks later, I got a call. It's insane. I got a call from a friend of mine from university who I used to play rugby with, and he's like, dude, I was talking to my mom and we're talking about you, and her company does like reach like sort of like CS, like these programs of doing things for people. What can we do for you? And I just said, I just need a studio.
Hmm.
About a week later, they brought equipment.
Wow.
They brought me KRKs, they brought me like a big Yamaha mixing desk and like a new computer and like I don't think I had a keyboard then. I think I bought the keyboard myself later. Then I was like, okay, now I've got like a new Reason program. I've got Cubase to sort of like play with as well. Now I needed to like read the manual and understand like how Reason works, what compression is, what reverb is, what attack and release does, understanding like the scale of the frequencies, how the warmth, how you can make a track warm, how you can like remove muddy frequencies, I had to learn all this stuff, and I was reading like all these techniques from like these mastering, mixing people from Universal Audio and all these different platforms. And then I started developing my own techniques because I said, this guy says you need to take away all these frequencies. And I thought, nah, but I like that like dirty sound on the bass. So I started like learning how to like tweak my own sounds, like develop harmonics from two different tones and make them one. But then when you play them as a progression, it has this weird like two-tone vibe to it. So you start like developing all these techniques, and I thought, okay, now I need to make songs. That's when I started making songs, like instrumental songs.
Okay.
And I was releasing them through a platform called Afrodija. Afrodija was like a Afrohouse platform for independent like producers. I did that for like a couple of months, and I said, this is not gonna work.
Yeah.
But then after bothering a whole bunch of people on Facebook, I'm not on Facebook anymore. But at the time, I was talking to Joseph Hines from FUMP. And then I was telling them, look, guys, I see you guys are like a young label. I heard some of your stuff, it's great. I left it at that. And then these guys were like, dude, we heard some of your stuff. How can we work together? I said, I don't really know about all this stuff. I didn't say that. I was just listening to what he had to say, and he was like, no, we've got like a new distribution deal, and we can start distributing our stuff to all these platforms. Now I had to understand what a distributor is, an aggregator is. Now I was saying, no, cool, we can work. But after I leave this conversation, I'm going onto the net, and I'm now understanding what is a distribution aggregator. How do these aggregators work with these platforms? Like how is it I can't send my stuff direct to track source? I must go through an aggregator. But then I realized you can work directly through track source, directly with track source, but you need to be established because track source doesn't work with anybody. So going through an aggregator makes it sort of easier for you to get onto these platforms. And I'm learning all these things and I'm thinking, okay, fine, this is a bit much. And they were like, no, you've got your own sound going. Why don't you distribute as a sub label under us?
Yeah.
And then I was like, sub label, started figuring out what that would mean for me. Does it mean like they're gonna tell me what to release? And I started asking these questions. I'm like, no, you do your own thing. We're just basically telling you how much you've made, giving you reports on how your music is doing. And I was like, okay, cool. And then We Go Deep started, and wow, it was a great like 3-4 years because I worked with Sir LSG, I worked with Jaden Vedder, I worked with Alison Crockett, and this was just purely off the sound of my music and them saying, I really like what you're doing, let's work. Who else did I work with at the time? From P60, a bit of CO. CO actually, I started working with CO through FOMP. Because FOMP was like, these guys were hustlers. They were working with all sorts of people at that time, like people I didn't even think you could work with. And in that, and I'm like, more interview, and then yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, African things are happening.
No problem. It was a shortcut. Let's wait a little bit.
Yeah, still with you. Yeah, no, I was just saying there were so basically I started doing remixes with these guys and we started networking with people, and as the network grew, the music grew and it went out there. And then I decided, you know what, I actually need to do this label on my own.
Yeah.
Not because I didn't want to work with FOMP anymore, but because I just felt like the label is at a point where I can do things on my own.
Yeah, it's just a point of maturity where you gotta make a step forward. It's not anything. Oh, it stopped again. Let's wait.
Yeah, no, I see you
Okay.
perfectly.
Yeah, you are coming back. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
telling that you gotta do this by your own, and I was like telling just that there's a natural point of growing and next step.
It just got to that point because
Yeah,
I wanted a bit more freedom in terms of just knowing that it's my own thing.
yeah,
Even though I never felt like it wasn't from the start. But
yeah,
the great thing about it was that Fromp were actually happy that they got me to the point where I can do it on my own.
yeah.
Because while I'm doing this with them, I'm learning about mechanical rights. I'm learning about other things like production music and making music for film and TV and library music. And
Which you are currently working now, no?
yeah, that's actually what pays for the label because um, after the first couple of 4 years, I realized like I'm not actually gonna make a living off of this.
Yeah,
Like I'm not gonna get milk and bread from just releasing music,
yeah,
even though the music was great.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think in people's minds, when someone sees your song on Track Source and your name is there, and you've got like Charles Webster, like your name with a remix, people assume like, wow, you're in the box, in the
yeah,
box,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
in
yeah.
the box, like you're just away from everyone else. But really, they don't realize that whatever you've put into that release, you're probably gonna get back if you're lucky to get back that in like 2 3 years,
Yeah.
because it's not just Charles Webster. It's the vocalist, it's everyone else. Because now the way I work, back then it was a thing of when I needed to do a release, I needed to borrow money from like my mom to
Yeah,
sort of like sort out different things because when quarters came in, they wouldn't necessarily be enough to make like a full-on release.
yeah, yeah,
And the great thing was the vocalists were always like, dude, it's not even about money working with you. I just wanna make this music with you because you're the only person who's really making music like this.
yeah,
And but fortunately now, whoever I work with, I can always at least get them something to like sort of as a thank you,
yeah,
which I appreciate. And that's why I'm not so much in a rush to release music like I was because I had so much music in me at the time. I think there was a time I was releasing music like every 2 to 3 months, just amazing package after another amazing package. There was one with Ransidu. There was one with DJ Tips. There was a couple of all sorts of remixes.
these European guys, no?
Yeah, it
They-
was DJ Tips was with
It's
at
with a
Jazzy's
guy.
label at the
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
and
Brazil is Holland DJ.
yeah, and I was linking up with these other guys from Germany who were doing like Afro stuff. There was a couple of people. Then you start meeting like these guys, even though you don't work with them, you start connecting with people like Ben Moss. There was this other guy called Ben Moss from Lost Audio. Start linking up with guys, starting having conversations with Sure I Can or Polopo. Because now I'm not messaging them to work with them. I'm messaging them to ask them what they think about certain things. And I'm just learning from these people that just take time to answer. But I never really set out to say I'm going to work with Charles Webster or whatever. I sort of just made the music and see where the spirit led me.
Yeah, yeah, it attracts because
Exactly,
it,
exactly. You said it. It attracts. Yeah.
it's attract. So because it is clear for me when I was talking, when I was first listened to the music, but then talking to you, that it was like a project that it was honest and raw, not trying to adapt to get some gigs or to get some connections or to be hip in the what's fashionable now. It was like
Yeah.
from the inside need of something that really happened, what was very tough, and you, in a way, the way I understood and we talk about it, it helps you to transform this situation into a blessed in a way.
Yeah.
Or it does something like at least you can live with it and find that life makes sense and you can still grow as a person. And this kind of thing is rare to find, actually. Also the your connection with this tree and with the spirits and all that. For a sensitive person like me, that I connect also with telepathically with the plants, and I can sense if they need more water or more sun or less or whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, so this information attracts situation. And one thing that I think is very important, that to is like the power that music has, if you are honest, to help you in life, no? Because
Yes, yes, yes. I think not just to help you, but to help others. Because
exactly, that's it.
if you can tell your story in a unique way, there will always be someone else who will see themselves in that song
To
or that story.
encourage people to to be their own and transform their own situation
Yeah,
into a better, into a magic, because what you are telling me has a lot of magic. And let's I put some. And then one thing we talk about it in, because Luca and me was didn't know each other, and it was very nice to meet, and he was very generous with his time also. But he told me about like how important was to the communication, the creating process with the artists you collab with, uh, without being based on these economical gains or whatever. And what like the personal connection with the artist, how affected your music, that was in the first place very introversial music, um, very like deep inside music. And you communicate with Jackie Queens and CEO and Jaden Vida, and they turn
yeah.
up be something different. How is this human process and this creative process and sharing you insight with, because a remix is something different. They work on something which is already finished, and it
Which
gives
is
you
already finished. Yeah,
maybe a social position without that you were looking for it, but it gives you a social, yeah, I work with such a name or such a. But the process of creating with vocalists is a totally different thing. How was it? Because it's very
it was
significant.
a lot of it was a lot of trial and error in the beginning. I think I stopped trying to talk to everyone, and I just started talking to. I started sticking with just Joseph and Pablo.
Mm.
And Joseph and Pablo would work with someone, and then they would talk to that someone about me, and then I would do a remix for that person, and then I would work with someone, then I would tell them about them, and then that way we started building this network of like producers and vocalists, and talking to Jackie and CEO, and when I did, I always found them at times where the music I had evolved. It was never a thing of, by the time I got to JD Nevada, my sound was already one way. I was producing certain type of sounds at that point. But after working with that JD Nevada song, Overstanding, my sound sort of shifted because I, I I hardly make a song that's similar because I'm always trying to make a song that speaks to something, say what I have to say to that thing, and move on to something else to say. So you have you have all these different concepts because they're not songs, they're concepts that are trying to say something, that are trying to put something across. And the more I started getting into this conceptualizing of music, the more I started to pay attention to the way I develop my beat programming. So now when you start making your beats, I started incorporating a bit of like African rhythms, but without the African instruments.
Yeah.
Now you get like these drum progressions which sound like, when you hear the beat, it sounds like it's walking. It starts with like a step, 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 but at some point it feels like the song has a movement to it, like it's going somewhere. And then when you start bringing in the bass lines and the chords and the other things and the other elements, you start to allow the song to have a conversation with itself. So that by the time the vocalist gets the beat, the song is already giving them something to say along with the beat. And the fortunate thing, I never had to ask a vocalist to come with a ready-made song. It was always a thing of giving them a song and they'd come back with a story, just just on their own. So
Yeah, yeah.
I,
It's like,
I always felt as if that process, it's never something I really looked for. It was just what happened.
yeah, 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 yeah. But
Yeah,
it's what's happened when you communicate with your soul. It's
yeah,
just, like it's a guidance inside and outside that
yeah,
that guides you. And I do believe, like, with this kind of product, which is not a product, which is a spirit,
yeah,
you touching people, and it's something similar in their way coming out. So
yeah.
uh,
I mean, even though my music doesn't go out there to millions and millions of people, like the few people that listen to my music listen to it even today. So it's
yeah,
not like the song just comes into your life and goes away. It's always there in the playlist somewhere. You
yeah,
know, it's
yeah,
always something you can listen to, and it takes you back to a place, or and uh, and that's what I made music for listening. I made music that had something to say, that carries an energy. Because even now, with Beyond the Bliss, I've moved away from house because I feel like I've said all I can say with house for now.
yeah. We
Now I
want,
want to,
yeah,
yeah.
we
No,
want to
sorry,
touch it.
I interjected.
No, no, no. It is exactly where this, I think, is the best way that this goes. So, because
Yeah,
in the We Go Deep, it was exploring just for communicating with the people, because we know.
yeah,
But
yes,
to be clear for the people, like, the We Go Deep is a house label, but the Bliss Beyond came after that, and
yeah,
exploring more like kind of down tempo music and
yeah. Etheric, yeah,
etheric type of
ambient,
music. And that's
mm,
where we are now in the conversation, just to help the listeners to catch where we are now, not
yeah.
to.
And the beautiful thing was that as I went into this new sound direction,
Mhm.
uh, the vocalists I worked with were ready to go on this journey with me.
Yeah,
So especially CEO, because I was already producing loungy like music for CEO for her album Subtext. I produced a good chunk of that album.
yeah,
So by the time I started Beyond the Bliss, I already had all these other songs I'd worked on for library music there.
yeah,
I didn't want to give away to other publishers that I do music for, but and for my own publishing company, but I wanted to keep some of them and release them myself. Some of them are interludes, some of them are like sort of mini stories, some of them are a bit longer,
yeah,
but they are. I think if you listen to Beyond Heaven and Earth, there's a feel that there's a feel that there was something that we had to say, and we've said it, and it had some of the sounds and the genres that were picked in that album. You usually get an album and you get a basic idea of where it could go, but that album is all over the place, and it's like that on purpose, because each song was not meant to be like these songs were picked for an album. It should feel like each song is a story on its own.
okay,
So it's like an album of many stories telling a bigger story. Um, and the etheric nature to the music itself also comes in with the frequencies that I used. I used the frequency of 432 throughout the whole album.
Ah,
And I think so even when you listen to the music, when it hits you, it doesn't hit your body. It like the vibrations of the music go in, like you absorb them,
yeah,
and you also have a natural effect on the water within the body.
yeah,
So I wanted there to be a tangible effect of listening to the music, because a lot of people don't realize that Michael Jackson used to record his music at 432 hertz.
no, no, I
And
didn't, I didn't know that.
yeah, and I don't know how many other artists were doing so, but there was a couple.
Yeah,
And that 432 hertz is a more natural harmonic tuning that's favorable with the body and its functions than a
yeah,
440 a 440
of course. And for
hertz.
people also, again, thinking about the listeners, so it is a couple of studios that test that the certain vibration or information affects the geometrical forms of
Yeah,
the cells in the water. So when you put
exactly.
a certain kind of words, certain kind of music, Bach or Mozart or
Mm.
gospel or
Yeah,
different, it affects the structure and the vibration of the water. And the music that Luca does, which is obviously something related, because we were going to come to the part of you that is a spiritual oriented human being and healer. But
mm,
of course, in the music, it contains this kind of information to get in tune with yourself, to get into yourself, and to also storytelling, but also healing. No, it is a story, but
mm.
it's a healing within the story. and
Yeah,
and and the sound library, the frequency, the songs are created,
yeah,
facilitate that. And this is because it's not thinking about fashion, it's of course timeless, or at least it is in our era. We can use it in 20 years, 20 years to go into this and feel, because it's a music of our era, needed, no, at the time, in my opinion, no.
definitely, definitely,
And we
definitely.
and we are in the just to help the people, because for me it's very comfortable, but I try to think in that for people that listen, is not everything we are talking about so obvious. um,
Yeah.
and and um, and we talk about something which was very very interesting for me, because it is clear that I didn't know that you started producing music after the accident. We didn't talk about it so clear before, but we talk about that the music uh, help you to overcome and transform the situation of the accident into something
Mm.
very very worthy, is right to say in English, like
Yeah, it's weird. I'll actually go as far as saying producing music gave me an outlet for myself creatively, and it allowed me to get into a space where I had conversations with myself that I wouldn't have out loud with someone else.
yo.
So now, as I'm having these conversations with all this music and these beats and these concepts, um, by the time now the spiritual aspect of things came into play, where, and you must understand now, as we were a Catholic family, so
Yo.
these things of ancestors and uh, just the whole spiritual nature and tradition, and um, just everything that comes with being yourself as an African was sort of like, no, no, don't go there.
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah.
make yourself too much. You're gonna be too much of you're gonna stand out too much. You
It's
know?
out of the moral or the rules or whatever.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. So it was sort of a thing of, by the time the spiritual aspect came into play, it just made sense to me. Okay, the Western culture would say to me, or Western understanding would say that someone who sees colors when they hear music is synesthesia.
Yeah,
There's an actual like scientific term for that. But for me, it was less about it being a scientific thing that needed to be explained to me and more of a thing of being able to tap into the vibrations of the songs
yeah.
naturally.
Yeah. Which I don't know nothing about music, but my DJ sets, I bring the colors inside. For me, I thought
Mm, mm,
everyone can do associate the colors in the music, but I
mm,
realized
mm.
they don't. But when I mix, I create I mix like one color with each other, and I create a story taking all the
Yeah,
colors into the. For me is because I don't know about notes, about everything, so when I play
yeah.
music, it's about the
No,
colors.
definitely. Definitely. I mean, even when I look at the waveforms of most of my songs from back then and even now, when I was making the songs back then, I would see these waveforms in the shape of the song. But
Mm,
it's only when I played the song back in like a Windows Media Player and I looked at like the waveform that was on the screen there, or when I opened up a spectrometer on the in the program and checked
yeah,
out how the actual waveform of the song itself looks. Um, there was there was an understanding that these things I'm seeing in my mind's eye are not just my imagination.
yeah,
The waveform you're seeing for the song as you're making it is the actual waveform on the spectrometer. So now you
yeah.
have to start asking yourself, like, what is this part of you? I don't know if you can say because of the accident it heightened other senses.
No, you had this before,
It's
but
weird to say that,
it,
but yeah,
it get potential by the accident. But you had this thing before, and maybe all had.
yeah,
I
if you
see
can
with
put it that way.
some of the graphic designers, they catch up this because I see the song in a certain colors, and the design of the graphic design speaks about these colors. Not always, but many times happens. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I do see that many people, I don't know how conscious, but intuitively they come into this aspect of humans. We are going in right now very strong worldwide, so it is very
yeah,
important to have tools as music that help us to develop this kind of sensibility, which I do believe personally that is the future of humanity beyond of this well, I don't want to enter in political things now. Okay,
yeah.
I stop. Yeah, yeah, and you tell that it's where I wrote this like music with mission or in a mission, positive energy with deeper meaning. So in your bio is like this thing in a mission is like to bring a kind of vibration of consciousness to the world through music,
Exactly,
and
exactly.
and this is very much why we resonate so much, and we could be talking for maybe 4 hours. We are close to 1 hour,
Mm.
so for me that's so worthy that I don't want to. It should be 1 hour, but fuck with the hour, and let's continue talking. So